tools of planning curriculum.
Yeah, so you'll have you'll be given a packet, and you can kind of search through, just like the workshops that we do. You can search through different curriculums, and they have it kind of all planned out for you, and then you get to kind of pick and choose. I think this icebreaker will be good. I think we should definitely focus on this. You know, if it's doing like, you know, racism and discrimination within the Bate, you might want to do a quick little like history lesson, but like this is all stuff that you will have like in a packet of stuff that you can kind of flip through and figure it out. So it's not like you have to come up with it all on your own without any internet or resources. The GP definitely provides resources in terms of curriculum.
And the thing you'll find too is that different staff come with different experiences and expertise. And so one thing that was really valuable for us last year was that we had different staff who knew and were able to do different things. So we had curriculum stuff that was maybe outlined or things we wanted to cover, and you plan that out at the beginning, but also understanding that like you might be that, you know, have awesome knowledge about first aid and decide, you know what, scrap that, we're going to do this day, and you move things around and you just kind of play with it. So
certain staff will run certain meetings, depending on their strengths.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the other question about internships?
Yeah.
That's
okay. So first of all, the benefit of going back to communities, again, is A, they know you're coming, and B, they know what to expect, and we also kind of have an idea of what those relationships look like. And so they might already have things in mind for some of us, knowing that GP is going to be back. They're like, oh, maybe somebody could do this, and then...
And internships can be, they sound super formal, but they can be like relatively informal.
Yeah.
Like we had a girl that we found out knew how to paint nails really well, and we hooked her up with one of the other girls in the community who's 17 who would just like, you know, like paint nails for the community members because there was no little nail place or anything. And so Kara would go there, you know, from 2 to 4 on Mondays and Wednesdays and do her internship with Lily, and she would paint nails. You know, so it doesn't have to be like this super like formal, like you have to get dressed up or anything. It's literally just like going and seeing what it's like to be with a community member and do the job that they do. And it could be baking, it could be...
We had kids who worked with like a carpenter and made benches while we were there, or we had another group who traveled with my host sister actually, and she did vaccinations. She worked for the government, but she would go to different communities and do vaccinations on the animals, and so they were able to go and like practice and help her and see her, you know, hold the animals or see how she administered them. So that was one thing that happened. But we also had kids who would, you know, go to the fields and harvest beans as part of like an internship experience. So it really, it's super, super flexible, and it's all about working with what you have there in terms of the community members and who you have in terms of the youth.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like, you know, organizing a soccer team, or it could be, you know, there's pretty much no limitation.
They form these internships just by talking to their host families? Or?
That's more so along staff roles in terms of community outreach and even student outreach, is figuring out what's available in the community, what jobs, quote unquote, or internships are available for them to do, you know, because you have to do it. For how many hours did you guys do your internships?
It depended.
Like 6 to 9 hours.
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was more than that.
Yeah. So just making sure that they, you know, can kind of, and again, because it could be anything. It could be something that staff come up with. It could be something that the students come up with as well.
So I know one thing that happened was that like our staff who went a little earlier last year had spent some time talking to the community and had like a list of like 4 or 5 internships. But they also, when the kids got there in that first week, part of what we had them do in the first couple of days was to just explore the community and to ask questions and figure out what was there and to identify what they could possibly do or what they might want to do, and then kind of forming those around that. You might have a kid who kind of gets stuck and is like, well, there's nothing, or whatever. You can, and what you do is you work with them on that. You say, well, what's your strength? What can you do?
What do you like to do?
We had a kid who started a soccer camp, and 3 days a week he went out after lunchtime with the little kids, because the soccer time in the afternoons oftentimes was filled with like the adults and the guys who played, and a lot of the little kids didn't get to play, or they'd just be out there playing kind of unstructured or whatever.
Or maybe the girls don't have enough.
Or the girls didn't have enough. So he used his skills as a soccer player to teach them soccer and to teach them skills and drills and organize it, and that became his internship because it was something he enjoyed. It fit into the schedule, and it was something he was good at, and it was something that was useful for the kids in the community.
So yeah, it might be something kind of that they structure themselves, in which case setting those goals and figuring out exactly what they want to do with the kids each week is super important, because otherwise you're just going to go, you know, you can just go hang out for 2 hours and not really accomplish the goals. So that's why goal setting comes in. Something else I was going to say.
Do the students need notebooks and pens too? Or is
It wouldn't hurt.
Just recording?
I would
encourage
suggest,
them to
yeah,
have it.
definitely. For journaling,
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, and if they're gonna blog, it's not like they have access to computers on the spot, so they would have to journal.
We had a lot of kids who wrote over the summer just on their own, and then they would use that for their blogs. And it's just, there were always things that they wanted to write down, and so we just,
Yeah.
They're not required like we are.
no, exactly. So this is the first week, and 5 more after it will evolve and change and become better. And what you need to think about is that at the end of the day, when you leave the communities, you will have had an experience that will change your life and who you are just as much as it does the kids. And it's okay to be a little bit selfish because, yes, you spend most of this time being almost a parent to a bunch of teenagers. And it's also okay to take a minute and really appreciate and reflect on what you've been given as an opportunity, because it's an extraordinary one, it's a truly unique one, and it's one that you can apply to the rest of your life.
And you might also not realize how much you've changed or how much you've gained from it until after the fact. The same stuff that we tell the students happens to us, and I think that's, like you're saying, it's okay to be a little bit selfish and like understand it. It's also a personal growth, it's a personal change.
Yep.
And it's not always just about the students.
And it gives you an opportunity to connect with kids in a really unique way. It is an experience that, at least for me as a teacher, to interact with my students outside of a classroom is really powerful, because at least for me, I got to take off my teacher hat for a little while and just be a person with these youth. And quite frankly, the way that it plays out, these kids became more like my little brothers and sisters than my students. And the opportunity to mentor them is a useful skill, but it's also just the experience of learning how to teach and interact in a really different setting and teach in a different way is evidence that a classroom is a classroom, but teaching doesn't only happen in a classroom.
And for me, I think that was the biggest thing, was taking on kind of a different leadership role, because as a teacher, like, this is our classroom, we are like ultimately the ones that get to make the decisions. And in this role, you have to work with 3 other people, and you have to you learn a lot about yourself, and you really learn a lot about what your strengths and weaknesses are, and other people will help to bring out certain strengths or maybe weaknesses, and you have to kind of together, you like form this little bond and this little family that, I don't know, and you learn about yourself in ways that I feel like I wouldn't have otherwise. So.
And, oh no, I had a thought, I forgot it. Oh no! I wrote a lot. It's fun to write and think about your own stuff, figure out your own way of recording it and reminding yourself of it, because you'll come back and it's really quickly and not easily forgotten, but it just is easy to push it aside. And so having reminders for yourself of what this experience was and what it did for you, and also thinking about what you're doing for these kids and for the communities.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is you're going to form relationships with not just our kids, but the communities that you might not realize how strong they will actually be. At this point, I call my Bate family like my family. If anytime I go to the DR, I go and I see my family, and they regard me in the same way as a daughter. And it's like, it's 6 weeks, and it doesn't seem like that long of a time, but what you're able to accomplish within that 6 weeks and the bonds you're able to create last for,
forever.
Yeah.
And we'd be lying if we didn't tell you that there are moments when it's frustrating. There are moments when it's really challenging. There are moments when you are angry and you're sad and you miss home, or you're overwhelmed, you're stressed, you're tired because you're up first and you go to bed last and you run around after these kids all day. But those moments are overpowered by the positives in it all.
Definitely.
And how much fun you do have. You'll find yourself laughing a lot. It was at me last summer.
I can only imagine.
And my Spanish. And just enjoying it. You're going to be in beautiful places with beautiful people, and so as much as there's logistics and there's expectations and there are things that have to get done, it's pretty awesome. So just know that and have fun.